Let's take a look at the iStick Pico RDTA mod. Welcome to the Vapor Trail channel. I'm Tony. So let's take a look at this. It is the Eleaf Pico RDTA, and basically it's like the Skyhook from Smoke or the RDTA box or RDTA box mini from iJoy. Personally, and I think you knew this is coming if you watch the channel a lot, I'm big into squonking. And you know, with squonking, you basically have a little bottle inside the mod and you just squeeze the bottle. It pushes the liquid up into the bottom of the RDA, so you never have wicking problems or anything like that. Kind of going for that same kind of concept here, but they're mixing a Genesis style tank, you know, an RDTA with a mod, and you know, they work. But the Skyhook and the RDTA box both had problems with leaking down into the mod. Now the RDTA box mini from iJoy I haven't had any issues with, so that one was pretty well executed, and this is kind of similar. It has an internal battery. The battery on this is 2300 milliamp hours. The wattage range is 1 to 75 watts, and of course it has all the different output modes: regular wattage, bypass, temperature control with all the different wires and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty well rounded, and if you like the Pico products, well, then you're probably going to like this. So what I did is I filmed all the up close stuff a few days ago so I could use this thing, and you know what I wanted to do is actually show you a build and wicking on this, because a lot of people that are using Eleaf products are usually not the more advanced vapors, which is totally perfectly okay. But I figure for that audience, you might want to actually see how this thing is built and wicked. So this video might be a little bit longer than some of mine, so we're going to just go ahead and dig right in and check it out. E-liquid that I'm using today actually was sent by Ron from Beats Meat. Man, this guy makes some really good jerky. He actually makes a pineapple jerky that is, oh man, so good. I killed the bag in no time flat. Now he operates on Facebook. I'll put a link down in the description for that if you're interested in the jerky, but apparently he's also associated with this e-liquid line, Jagged. It comes from Lizard Lounge Vapor, and when I was thinking about what I wanted to put in this thing, I was looking for something that's not like some of the typical dessert stuff that I've been having, like creme brulee and all that kind of stuff, and this just appealed to me. It's Frisco, blue raspberry cotton candy finish with crisp tangerine. Yes, please, and there's some of the other flavors. You can pause that if you want to read those. And I'll put a link down in the description where you can find this. Okay, so I'm filming this portion in advance because I wanted to show this thing to you before I put a build on it and put it through some testing and stuff. So this is the outside of the box. iStick Pico RDTA. Upgradable firmware, that's what it looks like. And here's what's inside of the box. You can pause that if you need to read it. Okay, so I've opened this box and played around with it a little bit. So all this stuff was underneath the tray here. So that's what you get right here when you open up the box. Underneath here, a USB cable that is both power and data. You get some Japanese organic cotton down here, and then you also get a couple of coils and some O-rings and a couple of extra screws for the deck. The manual's easy to understand, and they've got all the different parts labeled up for you, so it's pretty darn easy. And really, the menu system on this just follows the other iStick Picos. So if you know how to use that, you know how to use this, and I'll kind of give you a quick rundown on those. Now, I haven't used one of my Picos in a while, so I can't remember if the smart mode was in there, but basically, it will save different output power settings for each resistance value, and you can save 10 groups of these settings. I personally like to adjust my stuff manually, so I don't use those types of modes. And in a device like this, I just don't really see too many people using all these different settings and stuff for temp control and TCR and all that. But you know, if you do, great. It has all of those options. So here's the mod. It says iStick Pico RDTA right here on the side. It's got this kind of eagle stencil on it. That is also matched on the atomizer. Got your fire button up here at the top. Looks like there's some kind of sticker residue on this one, but you know, it's no big deal. Then you got your up and down buttons down here on the bottom, and the battery is built in on this one. Got a little window here to see your liquid, and that is your display. There's your USB. 5 clicks turns it on. The display is pretty small on this one, but you know, it's readable. Well, at least when it says Eleaf, it looks real small, but you can see clearly, you know, 75 watts on there, which is the max wattage. So you got your battery meter, your ohms, and your wattage right there. 3 clicks is going to put you into the menu, and you can scroll through the menu: bypass, smart mode, Ni200, titanium, stainless steel, and your memory modes. Back to wattage. There's going to be a link popping up right here. You can click that to go watch one of my videos on the Eleaf Pico. And like I said, it basically follows the same menu system as those do. But this is what's most important about this thing, is what's going on up here. This pops out here. It's your airflow. You've got dual airflow on there. So basically, this is really set up for dual coils. And this is a Delrin type material. You've got the barrel. That comes off of here. You've got your airflow on the sides of that. Then you've got your deck, and this deck is interesting. It's a two-post design with really small posts, but it does have some bigger holes. The positive post seems to have larger hole than the negative post. Dual O-rings on here, and that's your fill port right there. And it really does line up, so the fill port will be on the side here instead of right in front of your wicks. So you just take this off. It's basically a collar. You can see down into the tank. This is actually removable, which this is a good thing because a lot of times on these RDTAs, you can't just take off your deck and put it onto, like a 521 tab or some kind of an ohm reader, which is where I prefer to build. We're going to test it out because it looks like I can. It looks like a standard 510 type threading on there. And you got your positive pin inside of that for contact. And that's your tank inside there. So I'm going to attempt to do this. I'm just using a 521 tab mini from Geek Vape, and we're going to screw that onto the 510 connection on there, and it does fit. Now, one thing that they didn't include inside this package is a little blue screwdriver, so you're going to have some screwdrivers around. So yeah, we're just going to loosen these up. We'll get these coils out of here. And let's see how difficult this is going to be to build, because often these two-post decks like this, with just a hole in there, it can be pretty difficult. What I'm going to do is put the negative ones in first, which that seemed to work out. And then we're just going to put these positive ones in. Hey, that was not bad at all. Look at that. Now they've got these coils bent, the leads on them, so that they kind of bend out and reach into these posts, which probably helps a little bit. I'm going to stick a couple of posts in here just to keep these things in place. You want to make sure that they're not too far out because you don't want the barrel of this to hit them when it gets down there in short amounts. So I guess we're just going to get them in there real tight. And we'll just tighten these two screws down. Okay. So far, so good. Also kind of surprised that those things went in there so easily. A lot of times with these kind of two-post things, it can be difficult to get them in there. Now, when clipping these, you want to be careful because if you get too close to the lead of the other coil, then you're going to end up clipping that. Now, the diameter of these coils is pretty big. Looks to me like I'm going to need a 3mm post, and there we go. So we're just going to reposition them a little bit. Want to lift them up a little bit so that they're not sitting right on the deck. You don't want it to touch any metal other than the two posts. These look like they're just basic clapped-in coils. Now it's saying 0.44, so there we go. Going to give it another quick little turn to tighten these up. Now let's fire them, and what you're going to find is that your resistance may change while you're, doing this. Battery's really low inside this thing, so we're not getting a very effective fire out of it, but it is working. You just want to make sure that your coils are glowing evenly, and that is pretty good right off the bat. If they don't, then you can kind of run your tweezers over them, just kind of give them a little stroke, strum them a little bit. And that looks really great. Let's push it over a little bit, reposition it. You just want to make sure that they're not going to touch that barrel when you stick that on there, and that they're about even when you look at them like that. You also want to kind of center these things because what you're looking at is that these 4 holes right here, you got to get your wicks through those and down through those holes, which to me, those holes look like they're really small. So we're going to see if they choke off your juice flow or not, and we'll find out. All right, so once we have that done, then you want to just go ahead and put this deck back on here. Of course, let it cool down. So you're just screwing it onto that post that's sticking up there. Then we just take this and we put it over and tighten that down. And again, that's your fill hole right there, so you want to make it stop right around that post right there as long as it's on there snugly. And then we'll put this barrel on here just for a little test and make sure nothing is shorting out. Looking good, not shorting out on anything, and we have plenty of room actually between the coil and the barrel, so that's great. We'll let that cool off and we'll put some wicks in here and then we'll see how it works. Now this is the cotton square that they had included in there. I just cut a couple of strips. I do this a lot, so I gotta know how wide I want them to be. Go ahead and take this collar off of here first. Now you want to twist the end of the cotton to get it through the coil, but you don't want to waste too much of it by twisting it up like that because you're gonna need plenty of cotton to get down at least from that deck right there down to about right there. Again, I wanted to use all the stuff that they sent because this is how you would receive it in a package. Just going to cut off a little bit where I twisted it. I use this thing right here for fluffing my cotton. This is actually something that came from a turkey basting kit, I think, from the dollar store. But it's sharp, skinny, and it works. So I just want to comb out that cotton a little bit, get it fluffy. Keeping in mind that in the end, it's got to go through those little holes. So I'm going to kind of trim it so that it's in the shape of like a point. Now let's see how easy it's going to be, or hard it's going to be to get it in there. Yeah, because if the cotton is too thick in there and it's stuffed in there, all it's going to do is choke it off and it won't wick. So doing the best I can to get it in there. I guess maybe pull it through. There we go, like that. I would most certainly recommend that once you get it through there, you poke some holes through just to make sure that it is, loose enough to get liquid through there. So typically in a Genesis style, you should be good with that much wick hanging down there. So that took a little bit of time to do on camera. I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, pull that through a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of it off camera, and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so like I said, I'm going to be using this jagged Frisco. It is a blue raspberry cotton candy finished with crisp tangerine. Let's put that on here. I think 45 is pretty appropriate for a 0.46 ohm build. So I'm going to go ahead and wet up the cotton down here. Then we're going to put some on the cotton here on the sides. Then we'll just put it right on the coils. And we'll pulse them a little bit. When you do that, it sucks the liquid right into the coils and into the cotton. All right, then we're just going to put this collar on here. And we'll just turn it around. Once it gets to this point, you can turn it right there. You might just take a poker or something, kind of push the wicks to the side there. We just fill it like that. Not exactly sure how well the fill is working on this thing because it wants to bubble back out of there. It's also kind of hard to tell how filled it is because that seems to be like a smoked glass there and I can't really see through it. Yeah, if I fill it slow and I don't force it in there, then it doesn't bubble back out and overflow. So I'm going to finish filling this thing up off camera. So I don't know if you can see in there. You really can't on this camera especially, but there is a little light back there. I can see the level off camera. It's about right there, and I'm just going to stop right there so I can try this thing out and show you how it works. So once you get it filled, you just go ahead and make sure you line up the airflow with the coil on there, just like that. Push her down and take this, and you're going to line up your airflows on this with those, and then you can open or close it by twisting that. Now also when you fire this, you do get a little second counter telling you how many seconds you've fired it for. I'm not really a fan of buttons being on the bottom of that, and they're kind of small, so it's kind of hard to get your fingers in there, especially if you're, somebody like me who's got bigger thumbs. It's kind of hard to get in there. Okay, so after using this for a little bit, I was doing a little bit of snooping around and investigating, looking at the Eleaf website. And while I have my cotton hanging down all the way down to the tank portion of it like that, they seem to have their pre-made coils snipped right here at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and try that out. Just cut off this excess stuff here. It just seems to me that like when you're using an RDTA, you usually have those wicks hanging down to where the liquid is. It still doesn't get rid of the issue with those holes being really small inside that deck and getting that cotton through there. It's still going to be a little bit of a pain. And then you look at the amount of space that it has to travel to get up to those wicks, but we'll see. Maybe pull that up a little bit. I don't exactly know if that's going to work. So yeah, like I said, I filmed all that stuff a few days ago. I've been using this thing. I tried a couple of different wicking. I left the coils in here because I wanted to use these. The coils are actually pretty good. I'm pleasantly surprised that you could fit those coils inside of this thing, especially with the 2-post build deck and not very large holes. By the way, there is also a 0.6 ohm coil head that is available for this. That is a pre-made drop-in coil. You just take off the deck and you put that coil in. And so if you want to use this thing and you're not comfortable with building, you might just use those. As far as pluses go, for an internal battery, 2300 milliamp hours is pretty good, especially for the lightness of this thing. It's very, very light. And if you like that form factor of the Pico, well, then you're probably going to like this. On the minus side, Well, those holes in the deck are way, way too small in my opinion. If you don't get the wicks in there just right and really thinned out and all that kind of stuff, well, first of all, they're hard to stuff through those holes. And second of all, the holes are so small that it just kind of chokes it off. The reason why I wicked it a few times is because I did have problems with that and I was getting dry hits, and you don't want that. I mean, you really got to be tilting it and all that. The light that's inside there, it's like you might as well not have put a light in there because I just don't see it, you know, even unless it's dark. The little window for the e-liquid, it's like a smoked color. They should have just made it plain, straight up clear and made it so you could see through it. As it is, I'll have to get my iPhone out and put the flashlight on there to see what the level is inside there. So just some things that you should know about. As far as a built-in battery, some people are like, oh man, well then I don't like that. And for like 90% of the people that are just getting started, the whole prospect of having to buy 18650 batteries, which ones do I get? Do they have to be flat top? Do they have to have the nipple on the top? You know, all that kind of stuff. Well, which one is best? Do I need a Samsung? Do, you know, whatever. That's stuff that you don't have to worry about when you have an internal battery. So that's also a plus. Also, the fact that you can put a pre-made coil in there is also a plus. And then the fact that you can take this deck off, put it on an ohm reader or, you know, a 521 tab or something like that. That is really, really good because, you know, sometimes trying to work with a deck that's on a mod like this is not the easiest thing, falling over and all that. Plus, if you've got liquid in there, just take it off, put it on something else, build it, get your wicks going, and then you're good to go with this. Let's go ahead and try her out. I've got this at 50 watts. The build in here is 0.43 ohms. Let's go ahead and try it. It works really well, and I've found that over the last few days of using this thing, the flavor is actually really good, and the airflow off of this thing is really good. It gives a very nice, smooth hit. It's not a turbulent type of hit, and as long as you're leaning it, you know, tilting it back to make sure you're getting those wicks wet, it does work out pretty well. But yeah, I mean, it works well. The flavor is good. I'm not a big fan of those wicking holes, though. They're just so small. I guess it works as well as I would have expected, especially seeing those little holes in there. This e-liquid is actually really good. Jagged premium e-liquid. This one is called Frisco. Again, the flavor is blue raspberry cotton candy finished with crisp tangerine. You know, I've had some good of the blue raspberry cotton candy and some not so good. A lot of times they taste chemically because the candy flavors, I don't know, whatever they do, they just taste like chemicals. This does not taste like that. It's not as much a cotton candy. Let me get another one here. Yeah, the flavor on this is a little bit closer to like a blue Slurpee. Definitely get the blue raspberry in there, and then I get a little hint of tangerine at the end of it, and that's good for me. I like that. So I'll put a link down in the description for the Jagged e-liquid. It comes from Lizard Lounge Vapor, and thanks to Ron Nickel from Beats Meat for sending this stuff along. I really like it. And that jerky, man, pineapple jerky, are you kidding me? It's really, really good. Now I just have to try their Korean barbecue flavor. I'm gonna get one more here. Yeah, it's good. You know, once I've gotten the wicking a little bit, you know, more loose in there, it's just one thing that you can do is take a little poker and shove it down into each one of those holes to just kind of give it a little, I don't know, it just helps to break the seal or something. You know, you just take the poker and kind of poke right down into the wick area right next to the hole there. I'll definitely give them an A for effort on this, and they do have a different design than this kind of eagle thing that's on there. It's like a tribal tattoo, so if you like that, great. I don't know if they have one without a design on it, though. I just turned this up to 65 watts. I find that it vapes a little bit better at higher wattages. Let's go ahead and try that out. Yeah, very, very good. Sorry, I don't have a giveaway on this one this time. Eleaf only sent the one, and I don't even know what vendors have it in stock yet, but as soon as I find a good link for you, I will put that down in the description as well as the e-liquid. I also have links down there for my social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram if you have one of those. Really appreciate a follow on those. We also have links down there for advocacy, and make sure that you're using those links. Educate yourself so you can educate others. And I've been putting some really interesting links up on my Facebook page for Vapor Trail channel lately that have a lot to do with advocacy. Some interesting new stuff that might be happening going on in Congress right now. So that's something you should check out on my Facebook page. Either way, I thank you so much for your support here on the channel. You are awesome. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, you like what you see, go ahead and click the like button and hit the subscribe button. It costs you nothing to do, and it definitely helps me here on the channel. And if you think you're subscribed, make sure you are. I had 3 people just yesterday comment, dude, I'm glad you told me that because YouTube unsubscribed me. I don't know what's going on. Well, I don't either, but if you just check and make sure that you still are, that would be fantastic. And if you click the little notification bell, you'll get notifications when I upload new videos and do giveaways. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll catch you next time on the Vapor Trail channel.